And we are live. Welcome, welcome. Buenas noches. Glad y'all are here tonight. This video came to be because y'all have asked me about dating, and I have told you more than once I am not in any position to talk about what it's like to date in Mexico. Uh, Not at all. And someone, maybe it was like 2 3 weeks, maybe it was like 3 weeks ago, somebody on some other video left a comment and was like, you know what I would really like to know about, we've learned all this stuff about Mexico, I really want to know about dating. And I told that person, I said, I am not the person to answer any of those questions, but I will go find some people. And so that's what I've done. And so tonight, I don't have one guest, not two guests, but I have three guests. Uh, Ladies who are all currently here in other parts of Mexico City. And I have agreed to come talk to y'all about what it's been like for them to date here. So as we have this conversation, and if y'all have questions, put them in the chat and we're going to get to that. But first, in case anybody is new here, or if you are watching this on the replay and you have no idea why YouTube served this video up to you, let me introduce myself. My name is Adelia Borchade, although most people on the internet know me as Picky Girl Travels the World. I've been living outside the US almost 6 years, unsuccessfully dating, as we've already covered. But that is not what I mainly do. Mainly, I help Black women master their money so they can live the life of their dreams, whether that is abroad, whether that is taking a sabbatical, or, starting a donut shop. I don't know. But whatever it is, I'm here to help you figure out how to get your money right to achieve that dream. So let's introduce everybody. We will start with Ivana, because this is her second time being on the channel in 1 week, third time overall. So if y'all are like, ooh, that girl looks familiar, yes, you have seen her before. Ivana, how long have you lived in Mexico?
I think I am hitting 7, 8 months. I moved here officially in September.
Okay. And just in Mexico City?
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll come, or at least on my screen, we'll go down and then across. So that's Nadia. How long have you been in Mexico?
I've been in Mexico about a year and a half. Mexico City since last summer.
Okay, all right. What other parts of Mexico have you lived in?
I started out in Playa del Carmen, so that was cool. And then I came here. I went to Mazatlan for about 6 weeks earlier this year, but I'm back.
Okay. And then finally, Miss Vivian, how long have you been here in Mexico?
I just celebrated 2 years in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The whole 2 years here in the city?
Whole 2 years living here. I've done my little jaunts to different places, but yeah, the whole 2 years living in Mexico City.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome, ladies. And just in case anybody is watching this, because most y'all know I'm here in Mexico City. Rashida Dow is here in Mexico City. And we're always telling y'all that, yes, there are Black people here in this city of 22 million people, because folks will be like, oh, well, I didn't see anybody. That's because there's 22 million people. But as you can see, we are here. Okay. So we're here tonight to talk about what is it really like dating in Mexico as a Black woman. I got lots of questions from the audience. And this question was asked multiple times in various shapes and forms. Are Mexican men interested in Black women?
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay. All right. That was an easy one. Okay. This person asked it with a little bit more, they wanted to know more about the nature of that attraction. Like, are they thirsty behind Black women? Are they curious? Are they cautious? Like, how would you describe the vibes you get?
I can start. I feel like also we're in Mexico City, right? So I feel like that is to be named distinctly because we're in the largest city in Latin America. We have an international sort of like population here, and so I think people aren't as like awestruck by the presence of Blackness. I'm thinking of this also because two girlfriends who are darker skinned than I am and both have locks recently traveled to Guanajuato and had a very different experience of their Blackness, like touching the hair. You're like, it's 2022.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
that's not my experience here at all. My experience here in Mexico City is I think people, my feeling is that, you know, my Blackness is a value add, right? I think that there is very much, I always say this, I feel like because of the sort of like forced relationship that Mexico has with the US, people also more easily recognize that I'm coming from the US, which is also a first for me as a Black traveler. Mostly in other parts of the world peg me as African, which I am. And so I think that Americanness, right, is a value add. And I think, or, you know, USness, I generally say from the US, I think that USness is a value add. And I think there is something that's, you know, definitely like an identity based sort of like, oh, Black is cool, that I feel like I receive. And so, yeah, they're definitely always going to be pervs and like thirst spots. But that is not my overarching experience. My overarching experience is one of like, you know, just like curiosity, having a little bit of background knowledge. Honestly, I feel like a lot of folks do have some insight into like Black US culture. And so like are oftentimes trying to just be in conversation with like the things they do know. And yeah, I think just value, just like morena. I just came back from a pedicure and he was like, morena. The queer man, you know? And so, yeah.
But it's that inflection when he says it. So
It's like, I feel like it's like this.
Yeah.
that's exactly what I think it is.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, for
Ivana,
sure.
Nadia, anything to add to that?
Sure. Yeah, I think that kind of piggybacking on what Vivian said, I guess I was really surprised about how much our culture influences people here, and how they appreciate our culture. And then, of course, as the trendsetters, you know, Black people. So there's not a day really that I might just, you know, be out walking down the street and so like, you know, or you know, every guy that I date, it's a start. Oh, I love your skin; it's so beautiful, and your hair, and you know, it's an appreciation for you know our beauty here that you know I appreciate as well. Um, and then like the morena, morenita, yeah, those are I think terms of endearment. I don't take any sort of offense. I was talking to a guy, he was saying this is kind of their culture to talk to address people by their characteristics. So if you're tall, they'll call you, hey, tall person, or if you're fat, they'll call you gordito, or you know, as terms of affection. So yeah.
I don't have anything to add. That's been my same experience. It's definitely more of a curiosity, and and like a genuine desire to get to know people. So I appreciate it as well.
Okay. So nobody's saying that they have felt like fetishized.
On the whole, no. Definitely had like, certain experiences, but I would not say that's the usual interaction.
Okay. Okay.
Same.
Are there any dating norms that exist here in Mexico that you feel like are different than in the US?
That's a really good question.
I thought so too.
I mean, I wouldn't say norms, but I think for me dating here, I've sort of put all my preconceived notions on the back burner. I had gone on a date with a guy. So we had a first date. And then the second day, he was like, how do you feel about meeting my family? And I'm like, so in the States, right? You'd be like, oh, no. But here, I was like, okay. So they just have, I think they have a different relationship with their family, right? So it was funny because I met his family. It was cool. We were doing salsa and the like, okay, let's say like the mom, we were sitting at the table. So the table is here and then like the couch is here. And so me and the guy, we were sitting on the couch at one point, and he was just like, we were making out, and the mom was like right here. I mean, he was straight feeling me. And I mean, it's just, I was like, okay, just roll with it. If it's cool with the family, it's cool with me, So I thought that was interesting. I've never had that experience in the States.
I would say that's a little different.
In general, though, I think it's very like they are very publicly affectionate, and not just even in a romantic sense. You will see, kids and grandparents and friends, holding hands or embracing each other, just as much as you will see someone like making out on a street corner.
That was actually one of the things that attracted me to Mexico when I was visiting before I made the decision to move here. I just really loved that there was like a culture of public affection. And not like gross PDA, but just people aren't afraid, and people of all ages. You'll see like I saw this couple that were probably like in their 70s the other day, like walking and like holding pinky fingers, and I was like, yeah. So I can't think of any like dating norms that feel that different, but yeah, the general like openness to like showing love endeared me from the get-go, and it's still something I really love about this culture.
On multiple occasions, I have seen older couples that I would peg in their 60s in the park, full on making out.
Yes.
Like the PDA knows no age limits.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. We kind of made this assumption because I just said dating in Mexico. And I think the assumption has been made that we're talking about men. So if you've got experience dating women, throw that out there too. I'm so ill qualified for this conversation. Because when I lived here before in 2017, I think I went on one date. It was with a Mexican guy. And then this time around, I think I've been on a total of 3 dates, all foreigners, no Mexicans. So yeah, I'm grossly underqualified for this conversation. I thought this was an interesting question. There were several people who wanted to know about, wait. Before I go there, there's also the assumption, like, are you dating locals exclusively? Are you like, hey, whoever? Or it's like I dated some Mexicans and no, I'm only going to look at foreigners from now on. Who are we talking about here? Just to get a feel.
I tend to broadly date. I tend to broadly date all genders. When I've been on the dating apps, I put my profile in Spanish. I speak Spanish fluently because I figure, I'm not Mexican. Well, you know what? I'm like, people make the assumption. I feel like there's a style sort of component to knowing that I'm not Mexican, not necessarily that the blackness, although that's a whole nother conversation. But in any case, I feel like people, if you want to date and you speak English, you can easily Google Translate. I try to prioritize the local experience, and yeah. I feel like it's just for me. I feel like I came here because the culture to me is more appealing. And so even though, obviously I still have community with people who come from the US and other places, the culture here is just more appealing to me. So I'm more curious about dating people from here. I'm not a closed door to other people, but I think when I've gone out, think of maybe I had like one match with a woman from the US, but women from Mexico, women from other parts of Latin America, and men from Mexico. That was my experience.
I would say I'm open to everyone. When I first started this journey, I think that was one of the things that appealed to me is to date locally, because then you get to experience, a different culture, different types of men. I guess I don't. Well, I guess I slightly date women. I guess I'm more hetero flexible, so mostly men. So I don't really run into a lot of Black people to date here. I guess I have some hesitation just in the sense of our community. It's such a small community.
That
When
part,
you date
that part right there.
Yeah. So
I literally just had a conversation with someone yesterday about the quandary of me trying to date a Black American man here, because that means the circle's a little too small, I think, for my comfort doing that. So no, that part.
Yeah, I will say everyone I've gone on a date with has been a Mexican man. I think it's different because I at least want to date someone who is living here. And so not to say that there are not other foreigners who are living here, but I would say a lot of the foreigners who have sort of popped up in my feed are definitely people who are here, for the weekend, for a vacation. So that, I'm not necessarily not open to dating foreigners, but have sort of prioritized the experience of dating locals.
Okay. Ashley had a question. Are non-hetero couples just as publicly affectionate? Is it safe? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just early last week, I was coming home on public transit, and right on the corner, two guys making out. And I saw them, and I was proud of the fact that wasn't a big deal here, that nobody batted an eye, nobody paused what they were doing. They're like, okay, some people are making out. I still need to get on the bus. Like, not a big deal.
That was also one of the things that appealed to me as a queer person when I was visiting. And that was, so many things here like got checked off on my life list I didn't know I had on a life list. But that public affection of queer people, I remember going to a place that was not queer. It was very touristy in Centro. It was like, you even think of it like a family-friendly spot. And these two women were dancing as a couple, were just being publicly affectionate, kissing. And I remember looking around like, are they going to be okay? But no one batted an eye. And I was like, oh, this is a queer city. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Nobody cares. Everybody's trying to do their own thing. A lot of the Mexican men. People want to know, do they know English? Or have you been dating Mexican men who speak English?
I will
Or
say
Mexican
that
people, excuse me, Mexican people who speak English.
everyone I've gone on a date with has spoken, a certain level of English. But in my experience, them not speaking English does not stop them from wanting to talk to you. They will figure it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah, the same. I have dated both, a little bit of Spanish. I'm open to that, of course, but I'm less open to it right now because it's just, I don't know, driving the struggle bus with the app, and it's already, when you're trying to get to know somebody and then you're throwing this in it, but I'm trying to, I'm learning Spanish. I'm trying to get there.
Well, everybody says the easiest way, the fastest way to learn a language is to date somebody. That's what they say. I don't know anything about that, but that's what they say.
Everyone I know who is fluent in a language, and that's not like their family's language.
Was that directed at me? Because my my connection.
No, it was just in general. Okay, she'll come back.
We'll come back.
What were you saying, Ivana?
Oh, I was just saying that everyone that I know who speaks a language fluently, and that's not like the language of their family, it's because they dated somebody who only spoke that language.
It does force you in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Vivian, were you fluent before you got to Mexico?
I was, but not the same kind of fluent, if that makes sense.
You're like Mexico City fluent?
I'm Mexico City fluent, yeah. I was fluent and I could like do all the things I needed to do with my life, but I didn't have the vocabulary that made me understand what locals were saying, if you know what I mean. Like when people say like chido, bronca, or ese pedo, like all of the vocabulary that is very common, and you're just like, ha, when you know book Spanish, Yeah, getting here. And then I dated a Mexican man long term, and it definitely did up my Spanish and just the everyday words.
Okay. Several people want to know, where are you meeting folks at?
The apps.
The apps.
And real life for me.
Yeah.
Both. I guess I've met a few people in real life as well. Walking down the street, at the mall, my Uber driver.
It's always the Uber driver. Always. Yesterday, on my way home, he asked if I was married. And I said, because it is no secret to anybody who watches this channel, I don't do small talk in English. I sure as hell don't do it in Spanish. Okay. So it's always a struggle. And he said something, he asked a bunch of other stuff, but he also then slid in well, are you married? And I was like, no. And he was like, do you have a boyfriend? I was like, no. And then I said, all of the men in Mexico are married. And he was like, no, not me. All right.
You walked right into that one.
I did. And as soon as it left my mouth, I knew I walked into it. Okay, but y'all are walking down the street meeting folks?
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's my resting bitch face. Like, because people don't like, I don't give off like friendly vibes, like come talk to me. So maybe that's what that is. Okay. Inevitably, somebody's going to ask, which apps? Are you using Mexican specific apps? Or are you using US apps?
I didn't know they had Mexican specific apps.
They do. 4 years ago, I got on one. I think it was called like Lovely or Lovey or something like that. in an hour, I probably had like 200 messages. And I promptly deleted it from my phone because I was like, I can't do this. There are some, and most of the ones I've seen seem to be geared a little bit toward more people looking for Mexican women, because that's a whole thing. So y'all are on the apps people know in the US. Which one specifically?
I will say also, just for like a boundary thing in my life, I actually don't download the apps. I go to tinder.com or bumble.com on a laptop, sometimes on my phone, but just so I do not have that. I don't have notifications, any of those. But those two are the ones that are working. And Bumble, I think right now feels like it's more of a, I feel like it's more of a crowd that is a little bit more conversant with the things I'm conversant with, like a little more artistic, a little more queer. Yeah, not necessarily like younger, because it's all like you put the age range that you want, but it feels like the energy is younger.
What app are you on, Ivana?
I've had good success on Bumble and Hinge.
Hinge, okay.
Oh yeah, Hinge.
I was on Hinge momentarily. I think here Hinge skews much younger. And although I would typically, I'm open to younger, but 35 in Mexico is different than a 35 in the US.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, I agree. And just 35 in men in general.
there's that part too. There's that part too. All right, let me see. There were a few questions in here. Okay. Is there an assumed time frame for when you are considered exclusive?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm polyamorous, so I can't really speak to that.
So that question's, I guess, on your shoulders, Vivian.
You know, when I dated, we dated for just over a year and a half. I was actually surprised because it was the first time someone had just explicitly asked me, like, I can't even remember how he phrased it, but it was more or less like, "Will you be my girlfriend?" or like, "Are you my girlfriend now?" And I was like, "Wow, I love it." This was maybe like a month and a half in. We've been spending a lot of time together. So sometime in that second month, it's like, yeah, just an explicit question. I don't know if that's him specifically or like culturally, but I appreciated it because I hate gray zone when it comes to women.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Here's a question. Do Mexican men generally initiate, or are you having to initiate things?
I feel like it's a mix.
In my experience, the men initiate.
The men do? Okay.
I'm with Ivana. It's been a mix for me. It's been a mix of like, I think anywhere I've done the dating apps, I feel like people who tend to be a little bit shyer are like, "Oh, I don't know," and then other people who are more outgoing just go for it.
Okay. Okay, I didn't know that my comment was going to elicit these questions. I'll say what I think the answer to this question is, and then y'all can tell me what you think. Part of the reason that I feel like 35 or 30 is different here is because typically Mexicans they live with their family until probably they get married. People aren't moving out in their 20s or early 30s and getting their own place and being completely self-sufficient. And I am socially awkward and an introverted introvert. When Nadia mentioned, oh boy, talking about let's go meet my family, oh my gosh, I would have been like, it was nice knowing you. Like that would not happen. So the thought of dating someone and like, it's never, for me at least, it would never be a choice of do we go back to your house or mine, because you live with a house full of people, grandma, grandpa, your nieces and nephews and all of that. And I don't necessarily want you at my house all the time. So for me, that's what I was thinking. Ladies.
I think in my experience, I've met people because, you know, I'm an artist and I'm it's very central in my identity. And so I tend to pretty exclusively date artists, of all genders. And I think those folks are the ones who are breaking that generational mold more so. And I feel like they're the ones who are like in this. It's actually very similar in New York, where people are like in the city paying, sort of like half of their salary to be with roommates just so they can be out of the house and do that. You're right. There definitely still is a huge culture. I think more so with women. But even, like I said, dating queer women especially, they're also breaking that mold, as you can imagine. But I think, just the culture around, speaking specifically around men, and just being, taken care of.
Oh, that's a whole nother conversation.
I think it is a stunting factor in their ability to really like step into adult manhood.
I agree with all that.
All right. So I hope we answered Joe's question on that. Alicia asked a good question. After you've met someone on the apps, how soon do you move off the app to talk by phone and or meet in person?
In my experience, it's been pretty quick. I think especially if they are someone who is naturally more forward. So usually within, a day or two, there is at least a plan if we have not, met up already.
Yeah. I also just want to big up the way Alicia was spelled. I really like that. But same. Right. And also, sorry, I'm someone who also doesn't want to be on the apps like at all. I immediately pass my WhatsApp number and then I'm like, what are you doing? Or they're like, hey, and I'm like, hey, I want to meet up. I'm just I want to know if there's chemistry or not, because we could talk all day long over it.
Yeah, I prefer to get off the app quickly. I lose interest with the texting. For sure.
Okay, I'm taking note. I'm learning some things here. Nadia specifically has a question. Are people educated on polyamory there, or are you having to teach people about it?
I generally have to educate, or some people will say they're familiar with it, but I've only recently met one guy who actually said that he was polyamorous. So I mean that adds a different wrinkle to dating, I guess. So just in a sense that when people aren't that familiar with it and they think many loves, they think it's really about sex and just being with a whole bunch of people. And so a lot of times some guys will say, they're down to date you as a polyamorous person, but that's just because they're slutty, or they think you're slutty, or they want to be casual, or they don't want to have a close intimate relationship. So it really takes a lot of deep conversations about what it actually means to me and what it means to them as well.
Okay. All right. Any of y'all open to getting married?
I'm not open. It's not on my list of things to do.
Okay.
I tend to think of it as like a legal, as what it is. It's like a legal contract, and it can make things easier if you're marrying a Mexican who doesn't necessarily have access to travel or access to like certain things. Just it could make it easier for that person. And then, although recently I got my residency here through the economic solvency, so it's basically proving I can take care of myself. I was talking to a lawyer, and he was saying like if I were to get married, that family vinculación familiar, like the family connection,
Reunification.
there you go. That visa, it's a much quicker process to, if you want permanent residency, and also that visa, you are allowed to work right away. So like, that's part of my interest, not necessarily interest, but my openness to marriage is like the legal benefits that you can provide to one another. And safeguards.
Somebody asked about this, and when you mentioned about like access to travel and that sort of thing, I've got several questions sort of related. Somebody asked about like the money gap possibly existing between you and the local Mexican who you might be dating. Are we finding that that's a thing? Is that a problem? Is that not a concern? Are you worried about somebody trying to get a green card off you?
I'm trying to find my words to be delicate.
Okay. I think you've said enough right there.
Yeah.
So no, but seriously, let me just say, I prefer to date someone who is kind of the same socioeconomic level, just even for safety's sake, right? I've heard stories of people being robbed, by people they were dating, and I think so it's not to say that there's anything wrong with someone who doesn't make, so it's about the exact amount of money, right? It's just kind of how you move in the world. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it's better for me to kind of go like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I have found like Mexican society to me feels very, very class conscious in general.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In a way that feels I'm still just getting used to it, not just in dating, but just in general. And I think that happens more in countries where, there's quote unquote homogeny. That's another conversation. Because people need something, right? To like say I'm better or you're not. And so, yeah, I think there is that factor, right? Class consciousness. And again, what I was saying earlier of like being recognized as coming from the US. The US obviously is, better, superior. Again, all of these things just in the broader sort of like societal stereotypical ideas. So yeah, I feel like I trust my sort of radar enough to know when there's a sincere interaction. But I agree, Nadia, it is easier when there's a little bit more parity, like economic parity, because especially dating men, like men that come from machismo culture, and having to like sort of like swallow that pride isn't necessarily the easiest thing for folks. But also, I feel like I'm someone who's really open to just talking about money. I think it's really important. I think that's like a tool of white supremacy to like make money mysterious and you'll never have it, so that's why you want to talk about it so much. It's like, no, I think it's important to like be transparent about it. So yeah, I feel like it's a balance and there's layers and it's also individual, but short answer, yes, it is a factor.
Yeah, I haven't been here, like super long. So I feel like I tend to let the man kind of take the lead because I don't fully understand like the cost of things here, right? And how that actually is for people who live here, who are making Mexican wages, because I'm still in that mindset of comparing things to like the US or like being on the dollar. And so I definitely try and just pay attention to those things so then I can, be more conscious and be more involved and make those decisions so that money isn't a thing.
So what I'm hearing is y'all don't know where the rich ones are. That's what I'm hearing. Because somebody also asked the question. They were like, "Are all the ones with money married?"
No.
No.
And then they followed that up with, "Are they happy though?"
Back to that like class consciousness thing, I feel like money is definitely white here, just like everywhere else.
Yeah.
And I don't know what people's experiences were prior to moving to Mexico, but I was shocked that, white Mexicans are like white, like white.
They're white. No, they are white.
They're white. Like they look like they're
white.
in Spain and, like,
yeah.
And I know people who know Latin American culture know this. So that was my ignorance. But they're also the ones that, have like the cool gigs, right? In like film and media, in, whether it's like sort of any sort of like mainstream cool gig, Whitexicans got it. And I know some people are offended by that term, but yeah. And, and also politics, right? You see like when there's like a sea of, politicians, like they're light as hell. Even Mexico City is very light. It's a very light experience of Mexican. And so that also is part of my choque, the thing that doesn't necessarily make it appealing to me when I think about dating someone who is like closer to me economically is because they tend to be closer to white, if not just white. And I'm not 100% anti-dating white, but it's not really happening for me right now.
I struggle with trying to figure out where I fit in the class hierarchy because, like, I wouldn't mind dating somebody who had the money and the means to be able to do lots and lots of things, but at the same time, I don't know. I've struggled with trying to figure out where I fit in. And maybe I don't. Maybe I'm out here as some kind of outlier. I don't know. See what else before. Okay. So, Vivian, when you were talking before and you mentioned machismo, somebody asked a question. Wanted to know, have y'all had issues dealing with machismo and patriarchal dating expectations for those of you who date men?
I'm laughing at Nadia's face.
Mm-hmm. Nadia has something to share.
Let me just say this. So, in the States, we had a Me Too movement, right? Here, so you have to deal with that whole thing, like culturally, it's romantic for a man not to take no for an answer. And so that would be like some people would tell their origin stories. She turned me down all these times, but I kept asking and I kept pushing, and and I'm like, So that has been problematic. I mean, actually, to be honest, I had to kind of reevaluate dating Mexican men because of that. Some issues that I had with them and boundaries and that sort of thing. But it actually, that was sort of in Playa del Carmen. it's been better as far as that goes in Mexico City, I guess, because in general, I would say the men here are more progressive, you know, than the ones in Playa del Carmen.
Okay. Okay. Anything to add, Ivana? Vivian?
No, I've had a pretty great experience. I know that there is like that cultural element, but I think being a, you know, such a large metropolitan city, you do get more of that progressive politics. And I think, you know, that I guess a couple of the guys I've gone on dates with aren't even 30 yet. So I think there's also like the younger generations just have a better understanding of politics and like gender dynamics and tend to be a little more open. So it is more of like, can I do this? Are you okay with this? You know, how comfortable are you? Than I have found with older men.
Yeah, I agree. And I on the dating profiles, I'm very, very, very vocal. Like, you could be of any gender, but you need to identify as queer. And so, yeah, that turns off a lot. Of course, some people still want to get in there. And then I'm like, actually, this just happened. I was like, I find it very surprising you identify as queer, because this person just had like straight man written all over him. He was like, I had to look it up. I'm like, why did you read my thing? He's like, I did. I just had to look it up. And I was like, have a great life. Goodbye.
I'm gonna give him at least 1 point because he actually read what you wrote in the profile. I'm gonna give him a point for that, because when I was on the apps previously, I just got to the point that I put like, I can write anything I want here because none of you are reading this. So I'm gonna get a man a point for that. Oh,
the ones that do end up, you know, in the dating realm understand queerness and understand, even if they're not, you know, exploring it sexually, they get it. And it's an identity that they assume as well.
and okay. All right. When Ivana mentioned dating men who weren't yet 30, we got a question about, they said, I hear Mexico City is young, so how's the dating scene for people over 40? Am I the only one here over 40?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. So y'all answer that question.
I mean, it's fine. I tend to date younger anyway.
Okay. And they've got no issue with your age?
A lot of them, I think, like to date older women. I've had the experiences on the apps where like the guys will put like an older age, and then in the notes of like, I'm actually 22. But, and one goes like, every woman deserves a younger. Every older woman deserves. Not what he said. Every woman in their 40s and 50s deserves a younger man. I'm like, oh, okay.
I ain't mad at him.
Nadia, I think I saw the same person. I swear to you.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, I tend to date younger, not so much younger, like between like 6 to 4 years younger. That tends to show up in the range.
When I was actively trying to date, 10 years was about my sweet spot. The one date I went on in the city, I was 42, he was 26.
Ooh.
And I asked him on the date, I was like, you know, like or maybe it was when we were texting, I was like, you do know how old I am, right? And he was like, yeah, it's not a problem. He also stuck his tongue down my throat, like on the first date. And I had to tell him, I was like, look, when I want your tongue in my mouth, I'll let you know, but not right now. So, to answer the person who asked this question, I don't think if you are a Black woman over 40 and you can find people to date, I don't think that's going to be a problem, because there are plenty of dudes on the apps, at least the last time I was on them, who are 40 plus, especially like Tinder and Bumble and Facebook dating. Okay. What did Rashida say? I had one of those younger guys lie about their age too. I just assumed he was looking for a sugar mama.
Maybe.
Not an impossibility. Yeah. Not an impossibility.
Yeah.
And that can also be, a fun exchange,
Right.
It depends on what you're looking for. As you should, Rashida. As you should.
Let's encourage Rashida to find her somebody on there. Okay, let's see. What other question do we have? Oh, Lisa, great question. Do any of you interact with local women to get a perspective on dating or relationships with Mexican men?
I've had a couple of conversations. I guess that's where I do find the cultural difference come into play more often. Because here, I would say it's more common to like, you date friends of friends, or like you are introduced to somebody. So even me saying, oh yeah, this guy tried to talk to me on the street, they're like, what? Who does that?
Oh, interesting.
So I have just found that like our experiences in the world of dating or just interacting with men are different. So there isn't necessarily a like comparison to be made, or And I don't know if that's just like, oh, you are a foreigner, so this is what they do, or where that comes from. But that's generally what I have found is the way in which I find men to be very forward does not seem to translate to Mexican women in their experience.
I think, the couple of straight couples I know here have a very similar, like they went to high school together, friends of friends. Yeah, they knew each other through circles. And there isn't as much that I've heard of. There isn't as much of, what we experience.
That correlates well with some of the research Rashida and I did. Much in the way in the US, people go out to meet people. It has been our finding that that is not what Mexican men do. And so, like that's where that question then comes from. Like, okay, so where are you meeting people? So y'all are meeting folks on the street in addition to apps. And apparently we're not on the right streets. And Rashida said it's dry as hell on that app right now. So, oh no.
Also, I'm not so much of a street person as like meeting people in places. I feel like that's always been, in
shared interest.
Yeah, shared interest.
So expand on that, please.
Okay, so I actually we didn't date, but there was the prospect. I went to Zona Rosa, which is like the queer, neighborhood. It's mostly like gay men. And I went to like a drag show and met just like, there was a man and a woman, and, they were just like having a good night and just came up, and we just were all like, hey. And it actually blossomed into friendship. But I feel like, I'm blanking. I feel like I definitely had an experience of like being out and about, not necessarily on the street. Oh, right. I met a woman that we dated briefly at a house party. This was like dead in the middle of COVID. We did not give a F. We were just in a house party. And it was just vibes, And so I think that also, is, it's funny because it is a little bit Mexican. It's like, through friends. But just being out.
You gonna say something, Nadia?
Oh, no.
Okay. So as Taylor wants to know, where is out Are we talking clubs or bars? Because I would say no, but we've already established I'm not qualified to say anything.
I mean, I think that's part of just being out, but then, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's part of being out somewhere, right? A lot of times though, I find clubs and bars per se. I mean, I do go out, like I dance, so I go like Latin dancing and stuff. So most of the time it's about the dance and not necessarily about the the pickup. But I think that's still an option. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I have been given that advice. They were like, you want to meet somebody, go salsa dancing.
Well, let me just, yeah, for sure. I mean,
no, I mean, like, if you are free to say what you want to say.
I would say here, I did salsa dancing back in the States, right? And I experienced that as more of a meat market than here, just personally. And then, like, a lot of times I don't necessarily see someone I want to get with when I do salsa dancing here. But it is a good opportunity because you are, up close and personal.
Okay. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this question. So what do the Mexican men do? Like, what, I guess maybe they mean like, what are the activities? Because I said like, they don't like go out in the way that men in the US go out with the intent of, hey, I'm gonna try and pick up somebody. So what do they do? Do we know? It's a mystery. Oh, this is so fun. Okay, let me see what other questions we have here. Okay, someone asked, are they more about relationship and commitment building?
I think it depends. I've had the experience that there are those who are very much looking for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody also wanted to know, how do Mexicans approach you, like in comparison with in the US? Like, are you being courted? Like, or it's like, sup girl? What's your number? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like the States. It depends on the guy. So one time somebody hit me up, like his first message to me was chaoses. What? Come on, dude. Like what that could have just been what you doing, right?
No, that's exactly what that is.
Like, come on now. So you find the same sort of behavior, Someone will approach, yeah. Oh, you're the most beautiful woman, and I can tell that you're intelligent. And I'm like,
Okay. Okay, Celeste asked this question. I thought it was a good question as well. Do the local women find you as a threat? Like, is there the sense that you are taking men, like they're having to compete with you or anything like that?
I've gotten some shade. I've gotten some shade from local women. It's not, I would definitely say it's not a thing. It's not that common. But yeah, I've gotten a little shade thrown my way.
Really?
From
like
dating,
in what context?
I dated a Mexican man, very attractive, brown Mexican man, and we know the vibe. I feel like something doesn't necessarily have to come out, but we know the vibe. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've gotten, actually, unfortunately, the shadiest experiences I've had in terms of people just not living up to my general experience of Mexicans of being like very amicable and very welcoming. Like the shadiest experience tend to be from other women who are just kind of like a little bit of that. Like I'm standing just super simple. I actually call them microaggressions, like standing in line and then, oh, I'm not in line because you've just gotten in front of me. And it's like, okay, you know, I'm going to save my chi. Not get involved in that, but little things like that. From time to time, it's definitely not common. I don't want to paint the picture that's common, but if it happens, it tends to be from the perspective of local.
Okay. Anybody want to add to that? No? All right, let me see if we have any other questions that I might have missed. I think we asked that. Have y'all had any interactions with Afro-Mexicans?
Women, not to date, but as friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, I don't even know if there's even a sizable number here in the city. I really don't know.
I don't think that there is.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I think it's a very smallish group.
All right. Is there a big pool of international people to date?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mexico City, 100%. You
I
date
think
Ireland if you wanted to.
that's what I was going to say. If you had a specific country in mind, you could
They're
probably
here.
exclusively date people from that country in this city.
Yes.
That would be true. We've had several versions of this question pop up about cultural norms and expectations, like how soon are we expecting sex to occur? Anybody feel free to take that one.
Yeah, I guess I have not found that to be different than the US. I think we feel it out. How are we feeling? We into it, we not. Yeah, I have not felt that to be a different expectation or norm than I would have experienced in the US or have experienced in the US.
Same.
Yeah, I agree. It just depends on the person.
Okay. When Rashida and I did our little experiment, due to the frustration of the lack of results, we were out, like actively out, and I posted in like a women in Mexico City group. I was like, if you're dating Mexicans, like where are you going to meet them? Like, because we needed more data. And many of the responses was like, when you find out, let us know. Or they're all married, they all have girlfriends. And I saw Queen Jones's question, are they into side chicks? And so I'm curious, have you had any interactions or situations where somebody was like, maybe not completely honest about their relationship status, or they wanted you to be like, hey, I am married, but you can be my weekend girl? Like,
I think it's the same. Like guys do the same thing. You know, I met a guy, and he did tell me up front that he had a girlfriend. I'm like, dude, I said, are you guys polyamorous? Open? No. Okay. But we're not married. Come on.
he just wanted to clarify that part now.
So, like that ridiculous stuff, extends to here too.
I agree. I think it's person to person. Trash is international.
Very true. Very true.
Oh, wait a minute. You know how I said I didn't meet anybody at Salsa? Oh, this guy, this Cuban dude. Oh, like he's so fine that like when I walked in the place, you know, I had my mask on when I walked, and I'm so happy I did because he's like so like jaw dropping. Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, we're here for it. We're here for it. Where was this salsa dancing taking place?
Why you ain't gonna dance?
No, I'm not. But you know me, I'm all about research.
It was at a sports bar in Roma Norte. He's a teacher, so it was actually his night. You know, he threw the party. But he's not doing it right now. But
what's his name?
Robin.
Okay.
You're right. I mean, he's like a model and stuff, like on his Instagram. On his Instagram, he models and stuff like that.
Okay.
He doesn't speak he speaks just like about this much English.
Yeah, for the people who asked about English speaking, I think if it's a Mexican, your odds are going to be better. He might speak English than like if he's Cuban, or because I've not run across a lot of Cubans who also speak English. Well, Nadia kicked us off. Somebody did say like any like dating stories that y'all would want to share. They're eagerly waiting to hear them. You have any fun or funny dating stories? I suspect Nadia's got a bunch. That's what I suspect.
I co-sign on that one.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to. You guys. Yeah, you guys go ahead.
I got nothing.
Oh.
Okay. What is there I was going to say, like, what is the biggest difference in dating here versus the dating you did in the US?
I feel like I get more play out here, honestly. I think there's just more, it just flows more. I think I also was coming from Brooklyn, New York, right? So that is its own brand and its own personality. I think there's less pretense in the dating scene here, and I feel and appreciate that greatly.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's just the general curiosity that I find with my interactions with Mexican people here in general, definitely makes for a more pleasant dating experience. Because there is that, like, I just want to know about you, whatever happens, or whatever comes of it, and that could be nothing. And it aren't the same like preconceived notions, I think.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like just this openness to, I'm just gonna meet you and connect with you as a person, not as all of this stuff that we have about, back home. Like, oh, they did this, they went to this school, so that means they, or just having these ideas. So now it's just like, this is just a human being. And then I don't know. I find it a pleasure to date. I think it's a pleasure to date outside of your culture, just to learn different things. And I would have to say, like, as far as like the Spanish, like one of the reasons that I came to is this Latin America?
Yeah, it is.
Was I kind of fell in love with the language and the way it sounds, right? From doing salsa and bachata. And so, like the pillow talk with these guys and they're, oh, que rico, and all that stuff. I was like, love it. I've enjoyed that.
Have you found it difficult to pick up on that? Because like Vivian was talking about, like she had textbook Spanish before she came. And I have expressed to Ivana that trying to be flirty and funny in Spanish, I'm not very good at that. Not that I'm great with it in English, but I'm really not good with it in Spanish.
That is my language learning goal for the year. Is like I need to be able to flirt because like I'm very cute and funny. I need to be that in Spanish. The wit needs to come across. But so verbally, no, I'm not good at flirting in Spanish. But I have found that even when someone does not speak English or we are not necessarily understanding each other, the vibe is clear. I understand what is happening in the situation. I think but like the body language, like they're a lot more emotive and like, yeah, communicative in other ways to where like, I don't know what you said, but I know what you said.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like I've also definitely had more of those, like, could be the start of like a rom-com interactions with people, like in crosswalks where it's like, I just love it.
We had a question, and I'm curious about y'all's answers.
Oh, damn.
If you don't meet anyone within the next 5 years, what's next? Is that okay?
I mean, I don't know. I always meet people. I mean, it's like it's just a numbers game, you know? And I think it's whatever your dating life is about being at peace with wherever you are in that moment, right? So I think especially as a person who is not, you know, traditionally monogamous or on that relationship escalator, I just enjoy people in the moment and, you know, look for that connection and then kind of just let it be what it is. So I don't, you know, I would love to be in a long-term relationship for sure. But in the meantime, and even with the long-term relationship, I love being polyamorous.
Hey now.
We're in a pandemic. I cannot plan that far in advance.
Touche.
Yeah. And I think also something for me in that question, and maybe it was asked in that way, maybe not, also feels like it prioritizes. That means that you've placed, you know, a relationship as a priority in your life. And I think I'm still figuring that out. You know, companionship definitely is important to me. And I'm also learning with each passing year that, you know, it can come in so many different forms. And like having like a really strong, amazing community where you have like, you know, people who really can show up for you in the ways that a romantic partner traditionally does.
Yeah.
Also could satisfy, you know, certain parts of what we traditionally think of. I was just having this conversation with a good friend of mine who's in Ecuador. Like we all grow up with a certain degree of programming. And if we're fortunate enough to break it, we can really start to think about relationships in like these beautiful, radical ways that like I could be getting, you know, my sexual desire met in a particular way. You know, maybe that is what dating is for me, is like just like, you know, physical needs and like this idea of like that chase and the, you know, the play. And then maybe my more day-to-day needs, like help me finish this puzzle that's been on my, you know, coffee table for 3 months. Like those are like my besties here. And it all comes together in some way that like deeply satisfies me that isn't necessarily through one person. But I may say all this and I'm, you know, full of shit and next year I get married and the next year I'm pregnant. Who knows?
So what I'm hearing, or what I think you all have said, is that in a lot of ways, dating in Mexico is similar to your dating experiences in the US, but there are also some differences as well. And that if you want to date someone, you've made that a priority in Mexico, you can do that. That's what I'm hearing.
I think so.
Huh. I'm thinking about myself here, and if I'm honest, it's not a priority. Like, I want somebody to bring me tacos, but I don't want to like have to put up with him all the rest of the time. I just want him to be like, I was on my way home and I knew you would want these tacos, and now I'm gonna go to my house.
You know, that exists. It's called Rappi.
But I have to pay for that. I would just like someone to anticipate my taco needs and bring them. He doesn't even have to bring them all the way up to the door. He can leave them with security downstairs. So yeah. So I guess I got some soul searching to do there. Do you have any recommendations? Black women, again, most of y'all's experience is here in Mexico City, Playa del Carmen, Mazatlan. Do you have any advice? Black women watching this who are planning a move to Mexico and they would like to have a romantic life.
Well, I guess anywhere you date, it starts with you, right? And being in a place of, again, like being at peace with yourself, being the best person that you can be, being someone that you would want to date, right? And I think with, and I especially, and I think with dating, to date with intention, right? If that's your intention to have this relationship or have whatever, as well as surrender, right? So it's like you can intend something. This is what we have the control over, but we don't have the control over the exact outcome. And so it's just, so that's where the peace comes in. So you don't get burned out or frustrated. Oh, no, you know, if you don't find exactly what you're looking for at the time that you think you should have it. So I think it's just having an openness to life and to the change and to the unknown, you know?
I love that. I second that emotion and add to that, also like do as much research as you can. You know what I mean? Like just like know the culture in whatever ways that you can, whether it's like watching media, listening to songs, if that's all you have access to because you're coming from abroad. But like that gives you access to like understanding a little bit of like how people flow, how people interact, how people, sort of just like vibe. And then, similarly, anytime you're dating, set boundaries for yourself, be clear about what you're looking for. Like I said, one of my boundaries is I don't actually download the apps. I go on the .com. So I'm not, it doesn't, stay in my like every day. I don't get notifications. I have to be in a place where it's like, I'm going to give myself 30 minutes. I literally like say I'll stop at 7:30. Sometimes I go to 7:32, but like I give myself limitations. Like I'm going to be on this app for this long, on this site, right, on the .com for this long, and then I'm going to get off. And also, not going to look if I'm not feeling like I'm in the happiest place, because then you're looking for validation. It's not going to give you that. Yeah. So, set boundaries and be clear about how you really approach dating life, and also be clear that you feel good about you, exactly as Nadia said.
I think those are great summaries. Being open and being clear about yourself and what you need.
So maybe in my profile, I should put that bringing me tacos is important.
Yeah. You might be surprised.
You might be surprised. Mm-hmm. I know someone who, I don't remember how she worded it, but she got someone to bring her a giant baby bottle full of white wine because that's what she needed. So be clear.
Okay, then. I wanted to ask, Nadia said something about dating with intention. And that is a phrase that, I don't know, something about that phrase don't sit right with me. But maybe it's because I don't understand what it is.
Okay, so intention, I would say you live with intention, right? So you set goals, you set, I don't like the word expectation, but having a vision of what it is you want to experience. That's all. So that if there's a particular way you want to connect with people, then that's the intention.
Okay.
Or,
All right.
and so when we're talking about boundaries, that's an intention, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to me
Okay.
than what I was thinking. Here's a question. Do they have speed dating or meetups there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do single Mexicans attend these events?
Don't know. Never been.
Never been. But I feel like there's a lot for better or for worse. There's a lot of repetition of things that you are familiar with in US culture. And I feel like I've seen that, sort of like in like a Facebook group, or like meetup.com is active here. And so, yeah, people are out there doing it. I think also, just like in terms of within Mexican culture, just like within any culture, there are also subcultures. And so I think it's a certain subculture of people that interact with dating in a particular way.
Okay. Lisa had another good question. Before coming to Mexico, what were your expectations regarding meeting a Mexican for dating or relationship purposes? And if possible, provide examples.
Oh, do your homework. Show your work, right?
Yeah.
I guess I don't really have any particular expectations. I had the intention to date, and to connect, and see what happens with that. Yeah. So I think it's the same. It was the same as in the States, just to meet somebody that I have a genuine connection with.
I will say I was a little bit excited about beautiful brown people. I think, beautiful brown people all around the world. And just knowing I was coming to a place where, there are beautiful brown people. But, funny enough, like I was saying earlier, Mexico City is actually not that brown. So
Right.
that has been a challenge, to come across like the browner Mexicans. I hope that doesn't make me sound fetishy, but I'm brown. It's like a same thing, like for like.
I got nothing.
What do you mean you've got nothing?
I got nothing. I had no expectations. I don't know. For me, moving to Mexico was just about my own dream and like what I needed for me. I mean, I guess part of that is meeting people and meeting, men. I think similar to what Nadia said about finding genuine connection. But for me, that was just all secondary to just like being here and exploring and experiencing Mexico City.
Okay. And so to that end, you moved here because that was the thing that you wanted to do. But
Yeah.
at some point you said, let me download Hinge.
Yeah. Well, that to me is one of the ways in which I get to know a place that I'm living in. Because if you go on dates, you can find great places. The man may not last, but you can go back to that taco spot, that whatever spot. This came up in my talk I did with you about Belgium. My favorite waffle spot I found on a date. I took everyone to that waffle place. So for me, it's yes, the connection, but also experiencing the city in ways I would not readily have access to as a foreigner, as someone new to the city.
Okay. Okay. And this will probably be our last question. F Doctor is just curious, where are the beautiful brown people if they're not in Mexico City in large numbers?
Oaxaca, Guerrero,
Oh,
Veracruz.
I heard that
Veracruz.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The coast.
Oh, okay. I lied. That is that's not the last question. I like Yvette's question. I love the swagger of Black men. Is there a Mexican equivalent?
Always. I feel like there's always people out there that, yeah, there's always people out there that just drip a little bit more than others, for sure. I don't think that, in my experience, I have not, seen that same degree of drip. But when it's visible here, you know what it is, and it's a nice thing to see.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Black men. They just have that special something, right?
They do.
They do.
Unfortunately.
But right. So everybody has their own vibe. Right. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you ladies joining me tonight and helping me help the ladies who are watching this because, as I've already said, I ain't got nothing for them. I really don't. I appreciate y'all joining us live. If you are watching this on the replay and you have a question, you're welcome to leave it, and hopefully somebody with more experience than me can answer it. I don't know. Is there anything else? Any parting words anybody wants to leave them with?
Just come. I mean, Mexico City is a whole vibe. Just come.
It is a vibe.
Yeah.
It is that. All right. Night, y'all.